Glad to have you back with us. We're doing the Pembroke boys basketball episode today. We have Jim Cilley, the assistant coach, joining us. Mike Donnell might join us, the head coach as well, so we'll see. But thanks for coming on, Jim. So glad to have you.
Sure, great to be on here. Coach, how are you? Good to see you as always.
Good to see you, Jim. Thanks for coming on. We really appreciate it.
So I just want to get us rolling. You obviously have a partnership between the two of you. So what's it like kind of coaching together with you and Mike?
You know, it's a new experience every day. Mike is he's really passionate about the kids, really passionate about Pembroke Academy. But like I say, it's a new experience because every day we just never know what we're going to get. I think it's kind of the way in coaching anyways is, but you know, we've got a pretty good rhythm, I think, to what we're trying to do, and we have a pretty good dynamic between the two of us. I'm really fortunate, I think, because most programs, if you're the assistant coach, you sit back, you keep your mouth shut, and if you watch us play, I'm very actively involved in a lot of what we do, and even in practice, I mean, Mike hands over, a third to two-thirds, depending on the night and what he wants to get accomplished, and we. I get to coach. I get to be out there. I run drills. I have complete control over whatever we do defensively, as that was always my car up in Belmont. And and so it's an interesting dynamic to be an assistant after being a head coach for so long. But I'll tell you that the bus rides aren't nearly as cold when you're in your car, and the parents aren't nearly as loud at you when you make mistakes because the head coach is the one that makes all the mistakes.
Mm-hmm. All right. So you guys have had a pretty successful season to this point. I think you guys have won 8 or 9 games. I think you're 8-1, maybe you're 9-1.
8-1 right now.
And you had that one loss earlier this season, but overall you guys have looked really, really strong this year. I had you guys as my number 2 this season. Starting off 4-0, only loss at Pelham's a really good team, obviously back-to-back state champs. They've lost Dom Hurling and Zach James over the offseason, but they're still a really strong program, and they look to be a contender once again. Can you talk about the season you've had to this point?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Pelham loss was really a good wake-up call for us. I think that we thought we were good. We didn't think they were going to be good. I mean, we did. I mean, I did. I mean, you never go down to Pelham and know and think that they're just going to roll over. It's a tough place to play. Joe does an exceptionally well job coaching down there. And we saw when they came out of the break, and I know they'd beaten Pinkerton in a holiday tournament, and then we saw them play Sanborn. And I mean, Sanborn's extremely offensively talented, and they kind of held them. There were a couple runs in the game, but for the most part, you could see a team that was starting to gain their footing and then, a team that was still trying to find it. So I knew it was going to be a battle. I thought we had control of the game late in the third quarter. And then, we had some series of, self-inflicted wounds, and they got onto an extended run against us, and game kind of got away from us in the fourth quarter a little bit, and we ended up losing. But certainly with, welcome, and most likely we'll see them again down, I feel like it was good for the kids to see it in person, see them and see how hard they play. And it allowed us, as you know, Coach, sometimes when you have an early season loss, it could be the best thing that happens when you have a really talented team because you can refocus pretty quick.
Yeah, that's true. We had the replacement for you at Belmont, Tony Martinez, on, and he talked about learning from certain games, and early in the year, that you're right, that is a great one. I wanted to ask you to piggyback on what Drew was saying about working together with Mike. I know in the past I've had the chance to be an assistant for some incredible coaches, George Nukas and Dan Kesslinger. I worked with Dave Morissette at Riviere. We had a great time there. One of the things I felt as the assistant, my job was we had to have really good communication pregame. I would go to the head coach and go, what do you need from me? What are we looking at? And, they'd come back with, don't let it get more than 5. Make sure I bang a timeout if they get up by 5, or, make sure when we're subbing today, I want to make sure so-and-so gets a good run, that kind of thing. Talk a little bit about how you and Mike communicate with your game strategy, with a co-coach model kind of.
Yeah. So I do a lot of the breakdown stuff for film first, and then I talk to him about where I think we can exploit them, or what I think we need to do to stop them. Most of the time, it's what can we do defensively to limit what they do offensively,
Right.
and then offensively for us, where are some areas in the court that I think that we can be successful, or what some of the keys to the game are, and then. A lot of the times we'll go in pregame and he'll, start the pregame, talk about, what he thinks we need to do, and then it turns it over. And I think one of Mike's, I don't know, I would have ever thought it was a strength before, but I think a strength that he has is that he gives the players some input and some say. I mean, we make them watch film, we do a lot of things.
Mhm.
So he gives a voice to them and talks to our captains, and the captains talk to the team pregame. And then I typically have the last word. And then I'll bring it back to what the keys to the game are, especially defensively, and what we need to do. And then in terms of during the game, very different from me sitting down than standing up, because I can't. I mean, anybody who's watched me coach knows that I can't stand still. So
Right.
I'm rocking on the edge of the seat. If you watch, me on the bench, I feel like I'm gonna Julia Lebrecq, our JV coach, and fantastic. I mean, one of the best younger minds. I mean, she played, 25 years old. I mean, she played at Pembroke. I always feel like I'm going to elbow her or hit her. I mean, she's this small girl and I'm this giant hulking man. So I feel like I'm going to take her out sometimes on the bench. But, with that being said, during gameplay, like Mike, you don't see things when you're standing up sometimes as you would when you're sitting down. So I'm constantly reminding from behind what I see, and, he's even jokingly said, it's fortunate that I've got a guy that's won as many games as you have sitting behind me, because you say something, I just listen to it and do it. You've had success. So so we have a pretty good dynamic that way. And a lot of the times, he's very good at being positive and cheering the kids on and getting the crowd into the game and things like that. And then, sometimes I have to be like, all right, we got to tone back the positivity and focus in on what we need to do, so I think it's a good yin and yang.
Yeah. I think it's very valuable to have two perspectives there during the course of a game. One of the things I wanted to ask about, and I don't know if this is the situation for you guys, I was very fortunate as a boys and a girls coach at the schools I coached at, that we created an atmosphere where the boys and the girls program were basically one program. It was Campbell basketball. It was Hopkins basketball. You work with Steve Langevin, who does a tremendous job over there. Talk a little bit about how you guys work together, the two programs.
Yeah, I mean, I think that first and foremost, Steve's in the school too, working in the building. So it's nice, if there's ever a need for a switch in practice times or whatever else. And I know that Mike is able to go and talk to Steve during the day. He does a little bit more of that than I do, but like just simple things, like yesterday, for example, we're coming into the gym and they're in the gym before us and their girls are changing to get out. Our guys are starting to stretch, and I stood with him and Al, and and first of all, they want to talk about golf and, and the golf course and how my dad's doing and stuff like that. But then, we start talking about, their bow game the other night and, some things that happened and, whatever else. And it's, and it's just, it's good, just good camaraderie between the two programs to have, conversation and talk, to kind of be like, where are you guys at? It's a tough one the other night. Just be sounding boards for one another, and I think that's, I mean, we don't do a lot of going into his practices and he doesn't come into ours or anything, but, just the normal coach talk when you're, passing by in between and things like that.
Yeah, that's always really helpful. Drew?
Yeah, Coach. Obviously, we've talked about the dynamic between you and Mike a lot. What led to your decision to just kind of be an assistant now after being a head coach for a while?
Wow, it was, I mean, Belmont was my baby. I mean, I was there for a long time. I played there, they joke around. You joke around a lot. Coaches do. They said, man, I got there and the cupboards were empty. When I got to Belmont, there weren't cupboards. Like, we had to build a complete foundation house, put it all together. And we struggled the first year because, I had a bunch of freshmen and sophomore, and there was all the discontent, like, oh, did we hire the right guy and all this other stuff. And then we laid that foundation in that program, and then we started having success. I mean, the school hasn't been to the semifinals since 1970. So, we went to the quarters 4 times. They hadn't been to the quarters since I think 84. We won the Guilford Holiday Tournament 3 times, which was the only 3 times in the history of the school. So we did a lot of good things. I felt like we kind of got a little snake bitten a couple times, Nate Sotak breaks his wrist, and we're the best team in the division halfway through the year, and so he's out for the rest of the year. And then the following year is the COVID year, and we've got Guilford and us and Winnisquam, probably the best 3 teams in the division, and we're all bubbled into the same category, and we're playing at Guilford in the quarterfinals instead of on a neutral somewhere. We and then of course the Derek Stevens issue, my terrific sophomore point guard in that 2017 team, who had the heart issue and couldn't play his junior or senior year because of it. I mean, he was potentially the player of the year 2 years in a row. So we kind of got snake bitten. That's why I think we might not have gotten over the hump. But my decision to leave really came down to, it was kind of time, we had I had a personal life thing going on with my children. I had a relationship that was ending. So the real decision-making thought was, how am I supposed to be in Somersworth on a Tuesday night at 7:00 when my kids can't spend the night at their mom's that night, and who's going to be here to watch them? And so I stepped out for that reason. And I just was talking to Mike, and he was the interim at that point because the position had opened through for the rest of the way. Because I contacted him, and he said, "Do you know of anybody who's applying for the?" And I said, "No." He goes, "Are you?" And I said, "Oh, no." I said, he goes, "Well, what are you going to do next year?" I said, "I don't know." I said, "Maybe I'll go, call some games for Dave Haley at NH Sports Page," because I had done a lot of the finals and semifinals over the years with him or Pete. And then I said, or maybe I'll just bounce around. I'll go hang out in Kearsarge with Camper and see what he does, and then go to Guilford and look at what Rick's doing, and just kind of take a year or two off to grow and learn as a coach and just see another perspective. I mean, I knew that I'd had some success, but I also knew that, I don't know everything. So you can always learn something new. And maybe you grab an out of bounds play or a different wrinkle into an offense that you think you do well, or just some normal strategy that you would have done things a different way. So I said, that's kind of what I'm looking at doing. I said, I don't know. And he goes, well, you're always welcome in my gym if you want to come down here, blah, blah, blah. I said, oh, that's great. So I didn't think anything of it. I had no inkling at all to go to Pembroke.
Mm-hmm.
And then I watched throughout the summer on Facebook and posting all these wins and summer league games. And I'm thinking to myself, who cares posting about summer league stuff? But I just said, wow, they must, though. They're in Portsmouth. They're playing Winnicott. They're playing some good teams out in Oyster River. And they're pretty successful. And then in the fall, I just happened to reach out. Didn't have the kids one night. And when are your open gyms starting up, Mike? And he goes, actually, we have one tonight. Why don't you come down? So I go down, I show up, and he goes, guys, I want to introduce you to the new assistant coach.
Yeah.
This is Coach Cilley. And I'm going, what happened here? And that first year, the first part of the first year, I was very, I was there a couple days a week, but I wasn't there every day. And then, I was fortunate that, things had gone my way in my personal life a little bit with the kids. And I had some flexibility to either bring them with me down to PA during practice, or, I had some people that were able to, my ex-wife, my mom were able to watch them a little bit. So I was able to be there just about every day, second half of the season. And that's when Mike kind of turned the defense over to me. And that team, with Shondell Hadley and Mike Strazzeri and Joey Fitzgerald, Josh Pelot, that was really, really good. They just needed to be a little bit better defensively to have a chance at it. And we were able to kind of get, 98% of the way there, and then after that, it kind of last year opened up. I was there every day, and just gradually kept, getting deeper and deeper into it. And here I am, year 3. I could tell you that being an assistant for 3 years was nothing I ever anticipated doing. And I am still, entertaining the idea of, what the future of the guy standing up on the sideline looks like, and if that's something that I want to do again. And but for now, I'm super excited about this group and where we're headed. So having fun with it.
Big one coming up on Monday night. You guys got Merrimack Valley, the 2 top teams in the division. Both of you guys, I think, are 8-1. So that should be really exciting. What can you tell us about your expectations for that matchup? You're going up against Aiden Gray and company, of course.
I mean, Aiden's really, really good, and I'm glad to see he's back on the court because he's a good kid, and an exceptional player. And I know he's been struggling through some injuries, and to see him back out there is really nice, and it's impressive. And they're good. I mean, they're really good. They're really athletic. They're big and long. They're all over the place. I think the keys for us, I think we're definitely going to have to do a good job on the glass. I mean, they're probably bigger than we are. And so we're going to have to play physical and, keep them off the boards. And getting into a track meet is the type of game that they want to play. And that's typically how we want to play too. But I think we need to be smart about it. I think it's going to be a really, really competitive, good Division II game. And I like the fact that we're at home for the first one. Kind of same thing I said about Bo the other night. We won by 3, really competitive game, and I said, you know what, that was a good one to get because when you win by just a little bit at home, now that next one, they're the kids know we got to go play over there, so they didn't take for granted just another win. They know we have things to work on, and it's going to be even harder the next time. So it's easy to help continue to make them be focused as we go forward. And it doesn't get easier. I mean, we got to go to Souhegan on Tuesday night on a back-to-back, so not ideal.
Souhegan's really strong. I mean, that's something that we talked about in the preseason that you mentioned to me, that Souhegan was going to be better than a lot of teams expected, I think.
Yeah, I think they are. I don't think their record is exactly where they'd like it to be, but I watched their games. I watched them on film, and I'm like, I think a lot of teams in Division II, I think you can go down 10-11. I think the division – I don't know that I want to say the division's wide open. But I think there's a lot of teams that could win. Like, do you think that Merrimack Valley, Pelham, Pembroke, Bow, probably in the but then there's the Sanborns, there's Hollis Brookline. Hollis Brookline's fantastic. I mean, that's the team that scares what out of me. We played them. We beat them by 2 early in the season, but they've got 2 sophomores and a junior that are just. I mean, they're going to be competitive for a run this year. But next year and the year afterwards, watch out. I mean, those 2 guards are something special. So but there's just so many teams that could get it done. It's just who's going to be able to sustain the run, who's going to get the run at the end of the year.
Okay, so I got a question for you, Jim, and I don't want you to give me the coach cliche, we take them one game at a time. Okay, obviously this time of year.
I don't give cliches. I'm not the cliche guy.
Okay. This time of year, you're still roughly mid-season, but you can't help but look ahead. And you mentioned a lot of good teams in the division and a lot of good coaches in the division. You're playing teams that are very well prepared. So as you guys take an eye towards tournament prep, I always felt like heading into the tournament, I wanted my team to be as elite defensively in the half court as we could possibly be, because you're going to play on a big floor if you get to the Final Four. So pressing is dicey on the big floor. And the other thing is I wanted to make sure we were healthy. And I started to cut back on the physicality of what we did towards the end of the year. What are some of the things that you guys really value at Pembroke as you look down the road towards the tournament, preparing the kids?
Well, that question, because we just kind of talked to the kids about that a little bit today. So like Wednesday night, the night off, we're gonna do a team feed and we're gonna do film, but we're not going to actually get on the court and practice. We got 2 in a row. They're going to be games. It's better to take the night off and just let them regroup, and then get to the next. Go Thursday. I think that our philosophy is that. My philosophy always has been you defend the half court, you defend the quarter court, because the full court, when you get to the bigger venues, when you back when it used to be Division III semifinals and finals were at SNU, the bigger court, nobody ever shoots the ball particularly well there, and it's tough to press on a 94-foot court because there's more space. So we've taken that approach, and I kind of relayed that as that's my intent with, and Mike's like, defense is your gig, you do whatever there. He loves trap, he loves being out on the is that I have a kind of an idea of what I'm doing, and so we've been able to mix up some half court stuff, and we've got some things that we're working on, without not just out of our man-to-man, but we've got some other wrinkles that we've kind of put in and how we want to play specific teams. And I've got a notebook going about some teams that we've got coming up and teams that we may see again. And, what do we think we can do, to certain players on certain teams and how we might want to attack them. And, I mean, Jake Reardon went for 37 the other night against us at Bow. I mean, he's a fantastic player. Obviously, we don't want him to do that again. So what are we going to do against him the next time around? And truthfully, we'll probably see them a fourth time. They're good enough that we're going to probably see them in the tournament too. So do we show them different things in the next go around, and then show them some different things in the potential fourth game that we play? I guess it's kind of be situational and where we are in the standings at that point too. But there's some. I mean, like I said, I have a notebook going that has like, if this happens, we're going to do this. It's kind of like it's funny too, because I've been keeping a notebook, for most of the year, and it's something I started doing. And I was watching Julie Wynn's podcast where he's talking to Matt Patricia. It was just from last week. And he's got all these notebooks of like their play calls and stuff like that. And we're going to do this. If this happens, I'm not a rocket scientist like Matt Patricia, but hey, it's nice to know that my foresight kind of looks like it might know what it's doing. So.
Yeah, those notes become very valuable.
Yeah, roundabout. Yeah. And roundabout way to answer the question is, we're trying to really shore up our half-court defense. I really want that to be kind of like an identity and calling card for us. We are very fortunate at Pembroke. I think we talked off here a little bit. I think that they just breed kids and shoot the ball. So, I mean, offensively, I walked in and I'm going, man, if I just had one of these guys, and this isn't taking anything away from my Belmont kids, because I love all of them. We still get together, and it's a great fraternity that we have up here. But if we just had if I got a Joey Fitzgerald, man, I think I'd have 2 or 3 state championships in Belmont. This is unbelievable how well these guys shoot the ball down here. And it's different, Division II, and then having friends from Division III that were coaches that are now like in Division I, even, like Jared Pykush over at Londonderry. It's so different coaching in the upper divisions. But it's fun. It's still coaching kids, though. I guess that's it might be a little more skilled, but you're still coaching in the same scenarios and the same issues and the same things that you're going to deal with on a day-to-day basis.
As a defensive-minded coach, I always felt that the upper divisions, when I was involved in Division I, you can't stop Corey Hassan. You can make him take 5 or 6 more shots than he normally takes to get his 30, but you're not going to stop him. I always felt at Division III, we could stop whoever we needed to stop by keeping the ball out of his hands or running doubles or whatever. And you're right, the preparation's a little different. These guys are going to hurt us because they're really good, but we got to make them work hard.
And I think that's 100% it. It's like, am I going to stop Jake Reardon? No, but can I limit him? Maybe we can get him like 3 or 4 less touches, or maybe he'll take 3 or 4 more jump shots that are contested versus shots in the paint. Maybe we can show him a little more help and make other guys, have to shoot and beat us in a, maybe we don't do it early, but maybe late in the game, we're like, hey, you take a shot and see if you can make it because you're down 3, So I think that there's some strategy involved with it a little bit more. It's the depth of the division, right? I mean, there's more guys can play because the schools are bigger. You're pulling from a bigger pool, in Belmont, we got a kid that was 6'2" or 6'3". He was on the varsity team. It didn't matter how old he was. We didn't get that size. So, I joked the other day. I said, you guys we were talking about team playing zone and how they had a little guy in like a 5'10" guy in the middle. I go, you realize my best team ever, my 5'10" center, my center was 5'10" and played the middle. But he was tough. He hit people. He did all the dirty work. I said, that just is down there. I mean, you sometimes. I mean, Belmont this year has got the abnormality, right? You got the 6'5", 6'7". I mean, even the sophomore Brody Edis, he's 6'3", I think, and they're just long. I mean, I would kill to have that. But that
definitely is a difference.
And you know what? Honestly, I want to be remiss. I mean, kudos to what those guys are doing. I mean, Belmont looks tough. They look like. Between them, Campbell, St. Thomas, and Kearsarge, I mean, I think that their game against Guilford probably separated a little bit. And I know that the kid from Mascoma got hurt the other night. So I think that, Belmont has got as good a shot as any to go put up one of those banners that they never have. And, I'm glad that the tournament's off days that we're not playing and that it's early. Division III finishes early, so I might actually get to go a couple of their games. And I coached a bunch of those kids their freshman year, so it would be good to kind of go see them and watch them hopefully get it done.
Thanks so much for coming on, Jim. We appreciate your time.
Yeah.
It's great to have you.
Yeah. No problem. And I mean, sorry for Mike. We talked this morning. He was going to be on. I have a vision of him sitting in his recliner right now with his eyes closed, waking up in cold sweat and panic that he missed his opportunity to be on the show. But at least hopefully I could have lended some decent words for you guys, and
definitely.
I enjoyed the hell out of it. So
yeah, it was a lot of fun. Thanks for coming, Coach, and good luck the rest of the way.